Good morning or afternoon. Thank you for joining SafetyChain today for our solution webinar. Very excited about today's topic. This is regarding the Clean in Place optimization solution, and we're going to be focusing today on the cost of your CIP process. And is your CIP process costing you more than it should? This is part of our ongoing series to educate the market about the different solutions in improving food safety and quality and operations management. And we're very excited today to showcase and talk a little bit about the process, CIP, and how to optimize it. Before we begin, again, thank you for joining us. This is a WebEx session. If you are having technical issues, please call WebEx Direct 877-509-3239. As always, with all SafetyChain webinars, we always do send out a link to the recording and slides, and typically within the same day or for sure by Monday. We do hope this is an interactive session. We will open up for questions at the end, although do feel free to submit your questions in the WebEx platform at any time. And then for your privacy, as always, you will only see yourself online, but I'm delighted by the crowd that's quickly forming and logging in today. It should be a good session. So with that, I should introduce myself. I might have been remiss about doing that. My name is Jill Bender. I'm VP of Marketing at SafetyChain. Delighted to have my colleague, Clara Gavriliuc, on the phone with us as well. She is SafetyChain's VP of Data Analytics. Hello, Clara.
Hi, Jill.
We're excited about today's session, and just in a nutshell, we'll share with you what our intentions are. We hope to make this, as I said, interactive and succinct, but we will be talking about a little bit about your CIP process and certainly what's at stake, some of the key metrics to ensure performance and control costs, and then review a little bit about what the challenges are in measuring those costs and keys to overcoming those challenges. We will be doing a very high-level brief overview of our solution, a little bit live demo, a case study, and more importantly, look forward to answering any questions you have. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Clara, let's talk about the CIP process in general, Clean in Place. Every day, there's certainly top concerns that engineers, plant operations, those chartered with overseeing the CIP process are having. Would you mind sharing that with us and what's at stake?
Sure. So one of the top concerns that we hear from our customers is that they want to ensure that the washes are done correctly the first time, and more importantly, that they're compliant. In the sanitization process, obviously, safety and quality are very important. Those are the top concerns for all our customers in the food and beverage industry. Another big concern is the time in CIP. That impacts production. So we all know when you are in CIP, you're not making product. So we hear that there are some washes that take longer than usual, and there are some wash steps or wash cycles that need to be repeated. That all results in a longer sanitization process. Another big concern that we hear are all around the sustainability measures, and that is the consumption, the dollar amount, the big dollar amount associated with water, energy, steam, chemicals, and all of that all impact the bottom line. So those are all big concerns that we hear in the market, and more importantly, what are those such big concerns? What's at stake, right? So, well, safety and quality, as I said, those are very important. And safety and quality of the product that you are making in those units that you just sanitized, it's very important. The other thing, as mentioned above, the impact on your delay of your line production due to the longer sanitization process, all impact your margins. So let's think about inspections. That's another area. Everybody gets regulatory, FDA, state, and local inspections, right? Failing one of those inspections or not being compliant in one of the areas can result in big dollar fines. And it's not something anybody wants to encounter. So talking about dollar amount, overusage of energy, chemicals, water, especially in California, right, are having a huge impact on that bottom line. And the worst is waste product withdrawals and product recalls. not only impact your bottom line, but it can impact your brand. And we all heard stories about companies where they almost went out of business because of a product recall that impacted their brand or their name recognition. So those are kind of the top concerns that we hear and the big impact and what's at stake when those things can happen in their plan.
Great, thanks, Clara. Certainly the day-to-day concerns and what's at stake, but we also do hear quite a bit, as you're mentioning, from around sustainability as rules are enacted and companies are having their own policies around sustainability and what's being asked upon from their customers around that issue. So absolutely.
Yeah.
So moving on then, and certainly from ensuring the CIP process is working, the industry already has measures in place, correct? So if you wouldn't mind start, going through that a little bit here, that would be great.
Sure. We all heard the CIP golden rule, right? All the 4 T's. And those are kind of the minimum ones, but you have to have those to be compliant. So what are we tracking to ensure that the CIP process is compliant? Those 4, obviously, the time, the temperature, titration, turbulence, and even more, like pressure, conductivity, flow, probe, temperature, all kinds of things that are required, but those are the minimum ones to ensure compliance. And also, it's important to note that we want to make sure that we can prove that we have a process that verifies and validates that compliance. And that's kind of the golden rule for any CIP process to be successful and compliant.
Great. And you think about that too, though, is, when chatting with different folks in the industry, different conferences and so forth, they talk about the 4 T's. But what I always find interesting, Clara, and I know you and I have these conversations certainly, is that data really ensuring that your process is optimized, or is it costing you too much, right? So those are the primary components being tracked, is that helping you control your costs. So when you think about that, we always talk about, along with those 4 T's, if you will, what else should you be actively tracking to truly optimize your process?
Right. So now that we ensure compliance from a data perspective, right, from the 4 T's, it would be beneficial to actively track other things to impact your compliance, and not only that, but optimize your process. So, yeah, wouldn't it be beneficial to actively track your overall compliance process, to know how long you're in CIP versus production, to know how are those CIPs performing, and how are the operators performing? Those are questions that we always hear from our customers. And what if I can get that information? How is that going to impact my bottom line? And we'll show you how in a minute. But how about why are those washes being aborted? That's a very important question, because those aborted washes are thrown away washes. They're costing you money. Also, how much I'm spending on water, energy, chemicals. And that's so important when you can actually look at the data for each CIP unit, for each circuit, for each wash, and then aggregate it all up per plant. All of those measures, and if you are tracking them, would definitely improve your overall compliance and optimization of your CIP process.
But the big caveat is how to get that data, right? So when we talk about truly the key metrics, is one, ensuring that your process is working, but more importantly then measuring the performance and the overall cost over time. You've certainly talked about the 4 T's, but share with us and really what are the other parameters that should be taken into the equation.
Right. So basically, when I'm listening to our customers or the market, it seems like these are the top key metrics. And if it is to choose the real top key metrics to measure and optimize your CIP performance and minimize your costs, right, we'll focus on definitely the 4 T's, because that's compliance. And not only that, if you don't meet those requirements, you have to redo the wash, right? So that's a key metric to make sure you're successful on those and optimized. And then it's all the optimization of the overall CIP process and the time used in CIP. the optimization of the chemical usage and the utility, and then the equipment efficiency. If you need to calibrate your equipment to make sure that everything is working accurately, those are optimizing the key metrics of your process optimization.
Great, thanks, Clara. But again, when you think about that, what are sort of the barriers, if you will? You've outlined, we'll view as critical success factors and really optimizing your process. And what are some of the challenges in getting that data and being able to achieve that?
That's a good question. So the critical success factors. So number one, we don't want to forget, right? You have to be compliant. You want to ensure that you're compliant. And how do you prove that? Right now, one of the big challenge is that when you have an inspection, for example, in most cases, it's still manual and paper-based process. When the inspector comes, the washers are all in those big binders in the room, and they have to go through all of that through a pretty unproductive way to go through an inspection. Not to say how many trees are killed by printing all those washes, right? So making sure you have an electronic version of proving that you're compliant to any inspection or internal audit, right? You want to make sure you do those on a regular basis. So that's one of the key success factors to ensure that you're tracking your compliance and your performance. The number two thing that I would say is the optimizing your CIP process and time. And one of the big challenges, we hear a lot that everything is so reactive. Everybody's busy at those plants, right? But it's very reactive. When production gets impacted or a unit has to be rewashed, then they look at what happened versus managing the exception, knowing where the exceptions are happening and taking action immediately. Lack of visibility of the data. Well, we collect a lot of data, right? It's an automated process. But lack of visibility of the operator performances. Some of the things are automated, right? But still the operator to the HMI can impact the wash. And not having visibility in what they do and why they override the equipment, for example, or they take an action that maybe they're not supposed to, it helps optimize your process, obviously. And then the lack of real-time data, actionable data that can impact your day-to-day operation. Having those set points that we're going to show you in a minute that can help you look at the visibility of the data and how your CIP is performing and monitoring live. The other thing that, the third one that I would say is important is, as we talked about costs, right? Everything is costing money, and sanitization is not cheap, and it has to be done. So one of the big challenges that we hear is that there's no visibility into the equipment performance for all the chemical and utility consumption. So, and also there's a lack of trending of the consumption over time to see exactly what's happening and make the right decisions. And there's no CIP to CIP performance comparison available. So if I'm doing the same wash and I'm washing the same equipment, I should be able to see how CIP1 is performing in comparison to CIP2 and see where there are, opportunities for optimization. So those are some of the challenges that we hear, and managing those challenges will definitely help your critical success factors impact your bottom line.
Absolutely. But when you think about that, every time there's a challenge, there's always certainly a barrier attached to that, right? And be able to overcome that challenge. So, Clara, talk with us a little bit. What would you see serve as the overriding barrier in not being able to achieve those critical success factors?
Sure. One of the biggest barriers is having the overall big picture visibility of your whole sanitization process across all your areas in your plant. Now, we can take it from washing the trucks as they come in your receiving areas, all the way to your processing area, all the way to your shipping. There's a lot of data. These are huge plants and lots of equipment. As we know, there's a lot of silos, right? And it requires custom integration to provide the overall visibility. And then the other thing is the data, it can be pertinent to operators, to plant manager, and all the way to the corporate headquarters. But having that big picture of the sanitization process combined and integrated, that's where we can come in and provide a solution that's integrated, that combines all your areas and gives you visibility at the plant level.
Great. And when you think about that, it really comes down to visibility and data to impact the change, right? So talk to us a little bit about that.
So the key is to have this critical visibility and data that can impact change. It's all about having the right data at the right time. And how do we do that? Real-time data collection, not only collection, but monitoring and analysis. Having that done real-time is very important because that's how you impact change. Looking at performance trends over time, that's also something that will impact your performance overall, and looking for opportunities of continuous improvement. Compliance scorecard, making sure that your process is enforced, validated, and signed off on. Tracking root causes and resolutions for all your exceptions. Looking at the right data, at the exceptions, and not being overwhelmed by all the data that's out there. Optimizing your washes by addressing equipment efficiencies, operator training, or whatever your root cause will show you. Tracking utility and chemical consumptions to minimize your costs. Those are all of this data that provides the visibility, the data that transforms into knowledge of where your problems or where your opportunities for improvement are. And this actionable data will help you make the right decision at the right time. As we said before, proactive versus reactive.
Great, thanks, Clara. So we've talked a little bit here about some of the current processes and measurements and some of the key measurements and data that is really needed to optimize performance and control your costs. So at this point, we are going to go ahead and talk a little bit about SafetyChain solution to serve the challenges that we've talked about. Again, as mentioned earlier in kicking off, very excited about today's session. SafetyChain, leading innovator with food safety and quality management solutions, did acquire Vigilistics this past summer to expand our solution set. And this is the first session we have in regards to really digging into the clean in place process optimization. So with that, Clara, go ahead and just share with us at a very high level what can be achieved, and we're real excited to see the high-level demo that you're going to dive into.
Looking forward to that. So yeah, our solution provides, as I mentioned, real-time data collection and analysis. But also, we empower the operators and the management team with key performance indicators and dashboards. We ensure that the washes are compliant. We optimize the CIP time and process, and we do that by monitoring those washes against minimum, maximum, and target parameter values, and also PMO or regulatory scheduling requirements. We also optimize your utility, chemicals, and equipment. We look how many washes were successfully completed, and then we can look at that data by CIP, by circuit, by operator, by wash program, whatever is going to give you the information that you need to make the right decisions. We're looking at how many washes failed, and more importantly, why, and looking at the root cause, and then looking at water, chemical, energy consumption, cost, and more. So this solution will help you look at overall compliance and also optimization of your process.
Great, thanks, Clara. So as mentioned, we are going to go ahead and just show at a very high level a quick overview of what Clara was just speaking about of the SanitizationPro solution, SafetyChain powered by Vigilistics. So Clara, let's go ahead and pass the baton, if you will, over to you in WebEx, and we will then be able to show this. And the intent here really is at a very high level show you the solution. But again, if you have more interest or you'd like to deep dive into it, we'll figure out quick ways at the end. We'll tell you how you can ask for more information in a private demo. So with that, Clara, the ball's all yours.
Okay. Here you go. Can you see my screen?
Yep, we're all set.
Perfect. So as I mentioned before, we have a solution that's rich in functionality. And today we'll have time to cover maybe a few of the key points that we discussed. In this demo, you'll see how we provide all the electronic data collection and the reporting for the sanitization process. In this demo, we'll focus on the food and beverage industry. Since we automatically collect so many data points, we focus on an exception-based system. We start with a daily dashboard that shows you exactly what wash is completed, but what is more important, looking at the ones that failed, exception-based management system. So we can very easily get a dashboard of all your washes and look at the ones that failed, and maybe I want to drill down into the aborted washes, because those are the most expensive ones. So you can see the exception program. We can see where it happened by program and then by operator. So let's look at one of those exceptions. And we can drill down and see exactly what happened during the monitoring of that wash. Here's the wash, and it has a combo graph that overlaps all your parameters, so you can see exactly what happened at every single point in time. But more importantly, as I mentioned before, it's having those actionable data that it's going to give you the information to make the right decision as you go. As you can see, Jill, here, we put a static set point. We know that during this wash, the supply temperature should reach 155 degrees and maybe stay there for a duration of 10 or how many minutes that wash recipe or wash program requires. And we can see that that didn't get accomplished, right? So the temperature dropped down and it could not be maintained at that set point. Because of that, the operator or the automated system made the decision to abort the wash. But it's very easy to go in and look at the washes, investigate what happened, and we can do the same thing during the live view, and basically we can monitor those washes and see if they're completed correctly. In here, we can see a wash that's going on, and you can see the static point is 145 degrees, and the temperature is actually achieved during that caustic wash. The other thing that we provide, we hear a lot of people are doing titration test results during the chemical phases, but they're writing down on a piece of paper. So we provide a way to, during your live monitoring of your washes, to be able to see your caustic ranges for your titration or any chemical that's being configured for that wash. You can retest if something fails. We validate the number if it matches within the titration range. We can retest, or we can note a deficiency and a corrective action. So that's very important to be able to then look at the trend data and see the root cause and why the titration test fails for specific equipment. So that is an easy way to look at all the washes, monitor them, provide the data that's important to make those decisions, and complete the wash. Now, as I mentioned, there are a lot of data points and a lot of washes that are going on at a plant. This is a list of all the washes that they happen. You can very easily group and drill down into the washes that you're interested in. So that's important because, again, we don't have the time to go through all the washes as we are trying to figure out a problem. Now, let's look at a wash report, because that's important from a compliance perspective. We are FDA validated from a wash reporting perspective. It gives all the information needed for the inspector. It shows you the CIP system that wash a specific circuit by a specific program. It tells you the start and end time and the duration of the wash. You can configure to schedule or track the compliance on the schedule between washes, how dirty and how clean. But more importantly, it tracks the individual steps of every single wash and the duration of it. So you can see there are a lot of pages on the wash report. And we'll go and show you a little bit about each one of them. So it also includes the electronic version of your trending of all your parameters during the wash. And you can also go into the individual ones. As you can see, some of those pages are very short, but for the important ones, you can configure a min and a max and make sure that you are meeting that requirement during that specific page. And all of that is configurable. And we provide all the wash reports, with also including the titration results and also the verification and review process of the compliance. So that's our wash report. And as I mentioned, it's very important to have a verification process in place. We have customers that they go through and look at the scorecard. It's a very easy way to visualize all your washes. If a wash happens, you're going to get a circle, and you're going to know that somebody needs to verify and review the wash. Now, this is done based on your SSOP. You may have one person or two people looking at the wash before it's signed off. But I can very easily see that if I have a half circle, it has been verified usually by the operator. If it's a full circle, it's verified and reviewed by a QA manager. So that's a very easy way to go into the individual ones. I can click on any of them, and right there I can review the wash. I can see if there are exceptions, and I'm going to log in because it's going to ask me to validate that. Well, I need to put my password in here, and that's important because we want to have the traceability of who signed off on that from a compliance perspective. If there are exceptions, and I've done a lot of testing in this one, you can see that I can put the root cause right here and validate that wash and put and close any of the exceptions. And all of this is configurable, and you can define your root causes for specific exceptions. And then I can update it, and I agree and sign off on it. So that's how easy it is to basically go through the verification process, and then I get my full circle. So let's go into, oh, I clicked on it again. So that's basically looking at the compliance. Now let's look at the chemicals. And chemical usage is important. There's so many ways of tracking chemicals. And we provide that data into the individual days per system, per CIP system, but also for individual chemicals. And if it is to open one that has a lot more data, you can see that even my caustic type is then divided into the individual chemicals, and I can get the consumption and the cost for each one of them. Now, I can get different ways and different reports of looking at this data. So let's say I'm going to get my Accelerate 320, and I can see exactly which units are using that chemical, and let's get the sanitizers more used, and then the quantity used for each one of them. And more importantly, you can get it to the detail level, at the wash level. And if it is to look at one of them, let's open one. Here's the important part of being able to track, right? If I'm washing the same equipment with the same program, and it's about the same duration on the wash, I should have the same quantity, right, of the chemical being used. Now, if there's a difference, like in here, it's only 2 seconds, and still the quantity is different, maybe there is an opportunity for calibration or seeing if there's an optimization opportunity there. And we can do the same thing for utilities, and we can do it for water. I'm just going to go straight to the detail report because we work the same way. And we can do it for water, electricity, steam, whatever is important to track in there. So that's an easy way to look at the detailed chemical and utility costs. The other thing that I mentioned is about creating those inspection packages. So I'm going to really quickly show you a regulatory inspection package. And as you can see, you have to have permissions for that. So I can define an inspection package before the inspector comes, and it's very easy to create that, or put the inspector here and say, okay, choose a date, usually it's 7 days, right, when they select that. Choose the CIPs that you want to get the washes for. Select the circuits that you want. And I can select more or I can select less, right? And then I can save that. I can look at the scorecard to make sure that the washes that I'm going to include in that inspection package are all validated. And if they're not, I have 3 of those or 4 of those that I can go in and sign off on before I do the inspection package. And then I can generate the inspection package. In the inspection package, you can select individual, let's look at one that's already done there, individual packages, individual forms, individual washes. So it's up to you or the inspector to include all of that. So just drilling down, you can see you can attach forms that are required for your inspection, and then you can see all the wash reports included in there. 93 pages. So when you do have one of those inspections, it's actually a very long process of getting all the documentation required. So now let's look a little bit at the analytics piece. So as I mentioned before, it's very important to empower the management team and the operators, operator dashboards and management dashboards, and look at the important key performance indicators. And we can look at an exception-based system. It's important to know the count of the exceptions that are happening during a specific time period and where they are, on which type of equipment, what type of exceptions they are. Are there more aborts than holds? Which impact your wash duration. Again, if you have a long wash, you are in sanitization process, you are not in CIP, in production. And then we can look at the chemical cost and utility cost. And all these key performance indicators are basically configurable based on your SSOPs and what's important to your plant. So the capability is the same to the system. It's easy to learn and use. It's a drill down capability that it shows you exactly where the problems are. So I can drill down and see where most of my problems are, and it's in the filler area, and I have 3 fillers, and I'm going to look at filler 63. And then I can see exactly what happened. I had exceptions. I had 3 holds and 1 stop, and let's look at the stop. I can drill down into the detail of the wash and see exactly why this wash was stopped. So I get all the pertinent information, all the individual steps, and I can see that somehow around CIP 4, the 4th cycle, there was a stop, and then it went to drain, and then airflow. And then I can get all the information about what the parameters were, the mean, max, and average, during that phase where the stop happened. So that's a very easy way of drilling down and identifying the problem. And we can do the same thing with the boards. We can drill down into where the biggest problem for our boards are. And it seems like it's been receiving in the tanker area where my raw CIP is. And during the washes of the trucks, it seems like I can, again, drill down all the way to the wash and see exactly what the problem was. And we can see very easily that during their caustic wash, where they're trying to accomplish the temperature didn't achieve more than an average of 89 degrees. And conductivity was kind of interesting. It was going up and down in there. So it's very easy to look at the exceptions and the root cause of that and identifying exactly what happened during the wash. Now, let's look really quickly at the chemical cost. And you can see that most of the dollar amount here, in this case, goes to the sanitizer. It gives you the information by area, raw area, HTHD, pasteurized area, and all of those are configurable, and also by the chemical type. So I can look by area, I can look by CIP. I can see how much do I spend on every CIP. I can filter down by exceptions and see how much those the boards costed me, or by the individual chemical. I can go by circuit class and see, how much I spend on every single type of equipment, or by wash program, how much I spend on the full wash versus a long wash versus a rinse only, obviously, and all of those things are very important to make those decisions. And then we can go back and look at the same way for the utilities. And that's also very important. I can look at my utility cost by program, by area, kind of the same thing. I can drill down, or I can go and see by CIP. Right click on it, here we go. By circuit class, by program. So all the information can be sliced and diced in many, many ways. And then also we can provide an operator scorecard. We can see how the operators are performing very easily on their washes, how many aborts, holes, scrap advances, or any of the exceptions that you want to track on the operator performance. And maybe it's not so intuitive. It's, one abort, okay, but I want to look over trending, right? I want to see over time. Now I can see that this operator has 7 aborts, while everybody else has 1 maybe. Or this unknown, which usually is used by the equipment or a trainee, has a lot of holes. So those are the type of things that we want to be able to drill down into it. And as you can see, it takes you back to the individual washes. And it tells you also how much that wash costed you, right? So this abort was pretty cheap. It was only $1.20. But if you have an abort that, if the abort was happening when it was an hour, obviously that would have been a $30 cost for that wash. So very easily you can get the cost for the exceptions and see how much does it cost you, not only for the individual chemicals, but also for the washes that you do not complete successfully. So that's an overall quick way of looking at what we can provide as a solution, and provide the data to validate the compliance of your sanitization process, optimize your process, and obviously minimizing your costs.
Great, thank you, Clara.
And give you visibility into our solution.
Now, every time I see this, I'm always just amazed by the level of detail, right? But then how it all rolls up and gives you true actionable data. So we talked about some of the challenges, it's really not having the right data and the visibility into all the different areas that you want to measure. So thank you, Clara, for doing that. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and take the WebEx presenter bowl back and just take us through a quick sort of case study of what was able to achieve with SafetyChain SanitizationPro, and answer a few questions that have come in, and we'll wrap up today's session. So again, thank you for everyone still staying on with us. I wanted to just touch base very quickly on one specific customer, a dairy processor, and what they were able to achieve with our solution. So we look at the amount of production. In their case, it was about 4.5 million gallons of fluid milk. And what our goal really was to reduce the water and steam usage combined with increasing productivity. So again, they went in with very specific goals, and that's what was measured in the results. So with the solution, they were able to achieve the real-time monitoring of their automated and manual processes and get the collection of data they needed at every step in their CIP process, the manual workflows and the APPS tests, with the real-time analysis and exception-based management that Clara briefly touched over. But I think the real key here is sort of the compelling results. So again, in their case, they were able to reduce water and steam usage by 10%. But when you think about that, just the overall savings of more than $1 million per year is quite impressive. And more importantly, you think about the amount of production that they were able to add back into their day when you think about approximately an hour and a half or so each day that they were able to bring back to their production line. And again, these sort of results, we look at any project, what are you trying to achieve, and then look at the ongoing success with our customers. So again, just at a very high level, having a solution in place like SanitizationPro will help you ensure your compliance. But more importantly, it's really defining and giving you the visibility you need to control your costs and to improve your performance, driving savings up to 30% for the chemicals, energy, water, utility usage, giving you the dashboards you need to better track and monitor the process and your KPIs, giving you abilities to do exception-based management, providing early warnings or your action limits. And as we saw, the regulatory audit package creation, no more chasing around documentation. It's key here. What I wanted to do as questions are starting to come in, and I want to get to those, is just give you sort of a very brief high-level overview of SafetyChain. I know we have a good few customers online with us today looking at this particular solution, but really our overall goal is to connect your front line with your bottom line, our real-time food safety and quality management solutions. We are very delighted to acquire Vigilistics, as I mentioned, this past summer by extending our solution offerings with the SanitizationPro, what we saw today. Measurable Pro, we had a session on that last week, and the demo recording is available as well, and some good information there. It is part of our expanded solution suite, so SafetyChain is well known for our supplier compliance, food safety and quality management, and audit management capabilities, as well as now with our operational effectiveness suite around CIP and material loss optimization. We are helping customers throughout the supply chain, with the farm to fork proverbial, whether it's produce or at the retail side and ever in between. And again, focusing today just mainly on the CIP. With that, I'm going to go ahead and take a few quick questions here that come in. Thank you, everyone, for staying on with us. And then we'll talk about next steps. So Clara, a couple questions come in, if I could throw those over to you. One is specific to the implementation time. What is the typical time it takes to get this up and running?
Sure. The typical implementation time obviously depends on how big your plant is and how many data points we'll be collecting. That can range anywhere between 2 to 4 months. So that's a quick implementation. We can work with your PLC integrator, or we can provide our own, and we'll can get you up and running in 2 to 4 months.
Great, thank you. And I think I'll add on to that too, that typically the investment, the ROI is achieved within a few months thereafter. So again, quick implementation and quick return, which is great. Another question that's come in is in regards to, this one's reference to the size of a plant. So I know certainly we're working with customers with multiple plants, but also with just single plants. This particular one's prospect here is indicating they only have, but it's still 3 CIP units. So would our solution in that case make sense still?
Oh, yeah, definitely. As we know, in the automated world, we collect thousands of data points. And having that visibility into the important data that helps your day-to-day operation is very useful. And more importantly, we provide the data to look at trends over time so you can identify opportunities for continuous improvement. And as you said, it pays by itself within a couple of months of implementation. Not only ensures your compliance and you have the electronic record of all your washes, monitoring that you're meeting those compliances, and then also obviously looking for your ROI or your return on investment and minimizing your costs on either utility, on your time, on your operator performance, or also obviously chemicals is the biggest one that's out there. We all know that. So definitely can help at the smallest plant level that you have. If you can automate it, obviously it will have a return on investment.
Great, thanks, Clara. Another question, and there are actually a few that came into this regard. I'm going to kind of roll them into one, if you will, but we do hear this quite a bit, and I think you went through this during the demo, but let's go ahead and just sort of reiterate it. Obviously, there are already software monitoring systems that are provided by the CIP manufacturer, chemical provider, and again, if you could just sort of outline how ours fulfill the gaps of what they're already monitoring, that would be great.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, since CIPs are clean in place, right, are automated, you can think that they already have all the data captured through the equipment. And that's true, but it's what I call data overload, right? The Schneiders and Rockwells, Wonderware, and all of those, they capture the data, but and it collects the data as it happens. So here's how we offer more. We provide the actionable data, the visual of what it should be versus what it is. We provide that real time so you can make those decisions as you go. We focus on the exceptions. We give you those exceptions so, again, you can make decisions day to day in your operations, but also over time. We aggregate that data for you to look at trends and look for continuous improvement. We also provide the workflow and the process to make sure that the compliance is met. Now, you mentioned chemical vendors. Well, there's a big conflict of interest there. We hear that from our customers too. When a chemical provider monitors your chemical consumption, but we hear from our customers that they want a third party to monitor that and provide them the accurate usage and also opportunities for minimizing costs. We haven't talked about predictive analytics, but you can do what-if scenarios with our software, with our analytics package. So we can look at what if I would replace this chemical with the chemical from a different vendor? How much would that save me? So those kind of analysis are provided through our analytics package. So we feel that our solution encompasses everything, not the silo data that we talked about before. A chemical provider is going to focus on their chemical performance, but not necessarily on compliance overall. We encompass everything from compliance, from providing that actionable data, from providing your visibility, monitoring real-time and analysis, trending, predictive analytics, as I mentioned. They all can help your business and improve your not only your process overall or compliance, but optimize the solution process, starting with the time using CIP, all the way to chemical usage, and overall the whole cost of your sanitization process. I hope that answers the question, because that's a big question.
That it is, right? And again, we hear that quite a bit. Certainly the, you know, having a third-party system sort of manage and tie all the data points together in an objective format is key here. And I think, you know, if I could touch on, someone was making a comment about, again, sustainability. I know there's a huge push, especially with customers asking, so for instance, your customers, the company's customers, asking what are they doing to improve sustainability, to reduce their carbon footprint. And again, we've had our customers, you know, show that we've now implemented a system that helps us make a impact in that area. So there was a comment about that. So thank you for that person that commented to that. With that, though, what I'm going to go ahead and do, there were a couple other real specific questions. I'm going to take those offline. I appreciate those, and we'll absolutely get back to you with that. But I do want to wrap up today's session. Some people have mentioned they need to leave. We've gone over a little bit, but we do hope it was useful and beneficial for those that have joined us today. As mentioned, a recording will be sent by Monday of next week. When you log out today, you will get a pop-up form if you would like to have any more questions answered specifically, perhaps get a demo for your team or talk a little bit more about ROI specific to your company. We'll enjoy following up with you and having that conversation. Also, a couple upcoming events. We do have a session taking place next week, how to tackle your top food safety and quality management challenges. That will be an overview of our SafetyChain solution and the key areas that's helping drive compliance as well as reducing costs and reducing risk. And then also, for those of you who are familiar or not familiar, we have been hosting for a few years now monthly sessions with Dr. David Atchison about FSMA. So for those that are under FSMA compliance measures, it's a great monthly check-in session to hear the latest news with FSMA and compliance around that. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap up today's session. Clara, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it and taking care of many questions that have come in.
My pleasure. I hope it was very useful. I know it was a lot of information, but as Jill mentioned, we're happy to get in more details as needed and as you guys request.
Excellent. And again, thank you everyone for your time. I'm delighted you could join us for today, and we'll look forward to chatting with you soon. Thank you.